Welcome to the Off the Road Again podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Ross.
I'm Joe.
Sweet.
Hi, Joe.
Joe Bacal.
I can say my last name, I guess.
Yeah, there's definitely more than one Joe.
I'll do that.
Good news is we don't do take two, so you're good.
It's live.
It's live, but it's not live. So
yeah, we'll call it live. So go ahead, Chris.
Explain how we met Joe, because otherwise I don't know that anyone will. I mean, most people don't know how we meet people, but
that's true. So we met Joe through Dan Edmonds, and in the sake of not telling a story we don't have all the info on, Joe, why don't you tell us how you met Dan?
Well, I worked with Dan for a really long time at the Proving Ground for Toyo Technical Center in Arizona here. And we did all the TRD suspension packages from Tacoma to Tundra and this and that. So we were pretty tight.
So when Dan tells a story about pointing at the truck that said TRD and his manager was like, "That's really Dan," that's really Dan and Joe.
No, I'm kidding. It's I wasn't there that day, I guess.
We'll let it go. It's okay.
In his defense, he said it was only on like the 95 Tacoma. Like other than that, it was.
On his defense, I didn't start at Toyota until 97. So it probably did happen because I wasn't even there yet.
So what vehicles? You said FJ before we started the recording, but you said you were on the FJ team, and obviously early TRD stuff.
To back up a little bit, I was doing a lot of this off-road with Dan, and then I got into the point where I was going back and forth to Japan, and they trained me to be the highest level off-road guy within the company. They had to have someone who kind of take the lead and do training and instruction, and so that's kind of where that all happened. So then I got to the point where I was kind of testing all these off-road vehicles in most extreme areas all over the place. And obviously when the FJ came out, they're like, "Oh, this is the best off-road vehicle we've ever had." I'm like, "Hold on a second. I think I need to make sure that it's because
before marketing runs with that."
Yeah.
Marketing's like, "Oh, this thing's amazing." I'm like, "Well, how do you know? You haven't even asked me. I'm the only guy that's doing this stuff." And
right.
Anyway,
hasn't touched dirt yet. How do you know?
I'm working with this guy Fukuoka-san and Nakamura-san were the top two guys in the company, period, of all of Toyota.
Oh wow.
And so I worked with those two guys, and Nishimura-san was the chief engineer on FJ, I believe. And I was the North American, the guy that had to kind of represent us, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So it was FJ. What was before FJ?
So Tacoma, Tundra, any truck. I did mostly all truck stuff. I did some stuff here and there. I had to learn as a driver. I had to have an S1 license. So I had to be able to be at a pretty high level in Japan and like just throw a car sideways all day long to evaluate. But I kind of stuck with the off-road side, or not so much off-road, just truck and SUV stuff, just because I liked it, and it just kind of, there was just that part of Toyota that I needed to jump in there and do. And I come from the moto side. It was like, I'll be honest with you, if someone says, "Hey Joe, here's a Ferrari, do me a favor, go ahead and run around the racetrack and see if you can give me the best time." I'm like, bored. I know it sounds crazy because shaving seconds is just like, I'm just not into it. I'd rather drift an entire course or run a desert track. It's just what it is.
Right. Well, one's tedious and one's letting you have your fun.
That's exactly why I'd rather play Forza Horizon and just run around in an open world and do dumb stuff all day long versus playing Gran Turismo for hours on end to shave 0.2 of a second. Like I don't care. I don't want to do the math. I just want to have fun.
Chris is frozen. Don't worry. This happens every show. And we're not actually frozen on his side. So he'll come back and he'll have heard everything we're saying. So
heard it all.
So Joe, we heard it all. Chris, we heard everything. So Joe, you said you had a moto side. You mean motocross, motorcycles? What was that coming in?
Yeah, I grew up in Southern California. I raced, this goes way back. I'm a lot older than you guys, but I raced at like Indian Dunes, real famous. Saddleback was in San Diego. So I rode, 80s, jumped into 125s, and I was a big motocross guy. One of my buddies is world champion. My other buddy's, 125 pro supercross guy. I was his mechanic for a little bit on the series. So, Yeah, I love motorcycles to this day. I still have dirt bikes. I don't ride motocross anymore. I do more single track stuff and, adventure bikes. I mean, I built custom motorcycles. I'm probably more into bikes than I am into cars and trucks.
Okay. I hear you. I'm more of a quad guy than a 4x4, truck guy, truthfully. Yes, and Chris is live producing here, and he's got an old, what are those 125s, or are those bigger?
That was before my time. That's like, you're looking at like 70.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, not before my time, but I was still too bad. Probably 8 or 7.
Check out the dude with the old school OP out there. I haven't seen Ocean Pacific here in forever.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That looks like in the early 72, 3. I don't know. I'm guessing because I can't tell. But
days of the wild West.
When I raced here, I was on 80s, an 84 KX80 to be exact. They closed in 85. So I only raced for two or 3 years there. And that was before they.
Dude, that's where they filmed Dukes of Hazzard at, was Indian Dukes.
Is it really?
Well,
yeah.
That's funny.
Story too, and I'm telling you, I got all kinds of crazy stories. The Dukes of Hazzard cars were parked where I lived. The studio cars, the cars in the movie, I lived on an area to protect, kind of like, hey, we'll give you free rent. You can live here as long as you want. We have all these expensive movie cars on property. We need someone to live in this place. I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. So people would come over and they're like, is that from that movie? I'm like, everything you see is from a movie. So
that's crazy. That's something that only happens in California. That doesn't happen here.
That's great.
Yeah, that's a true story.
I love that one a lot.
So how was the FJ when you got your hands on it finally? Was it as good as they said?
It was. I really liked it. I had a lot of responsibility on that vehicle, but I liked it because, we used part of the Prado, and I mean, it was really just a cool project from day one. And, I would go back and forth to Japan, try to get, hey, we want a solid axle, we want diesel. I'm working with marketing, product planning, and I'm like, this is what we want. And, I was kind of the guy that was getting my hands dirty and driving the truck, and no one was allowed to touch that thing for no bizarre reason. Nobody was allowed to drive it except me. So at least in anything that, could cause any damage. So we traveled all over the place, and, gosh, I mean, I remember doing the all black TRD special edition. That was my little deal that I did, and I tuned that for more desert, and the original one was a little bit more well rounded. But yeah, loved it.
Was that the one with the beadlocks, or were they released fake beadlocks, or was that? Oh no, that was Trail Teams.
No, the Trail Team vehicle, I'm trying to think, that was before. The Trail Teams, when I started, was the first vehicle that came out was 07, and there was not a special edition. I don't think it was 07. It might have been 08. Gosh, I don't remember now. But
the internet will correct us. It's okay.
Rock Warrior Wheel is the only one that I can remember that actually it's a simulated beadlock. It wasn't a real beadlock.
Rock Warrior. So there was a Rock Warrior Tundra. Mm-hmm. Were you involved in that at all? Or was it just same name applied to a different product? Totally different team.
I was already gone at that point. The last project that I worked on was a 200 series Line Cruiser. And it was
okay.
I drove the diesel one in Japan, worked on crawl control. I worked on that system before that was kind of my last program as I started to exit. So FJ was kind of my last big program as well. So,
was your involvement on the crawl control, was that helping them like fine tune the actual motion of the vehicle, or was that more just help getting data points?
No, so there's a place called Tahara, and there's also a place called the Nara Prefecture, there's a really gnarly off-road park that we go to over there. A couple guys own it, but like it's super extreme. I thought it was pretty bad here in some areas. I'm looking straight up. I'm like, you guys got to be kidding me. We're going up that. I mean, it was really intense. But
it's always fun.
There's really crazy rock section. And so the engineer would be in the car. He was just tweaking the software, and it's literally like, and it's doing its thing, and we're adjusting the speed, and I'm driving this thing, hanging wheels and lifting wheels. And so you had to be a pretty good driver to get through the section, because it was a really hard section on purpose to make sure that this system was going to be as good as they wanted.
Was that on stock tires they had you doing that whole thing, or did they have all-terrains or something on there?
everything was on mud and snow, OEM,
okay.
Pressure. We never ever in my, that I remember we ever tested any pressure but OEM. We had to, because the tires are being developed at the exact same time as the vehicle. So we just never do it because we don't want anybody else to do it. So.
That's fair. That's fair. You want the actual buyer and consumer to have it in their hands the same way that you know it works in yours.
Think about the liability. If you air down, you're going to go on the street, you do a hard lane change, and all that deflection and heat, and you're upside down. I mean, it's not a good situation.
Yep. Right. Which is why if I'm air down, I'm going really slow off.
Oh, God. One of my sketchiest 5 minutes of driving ever was we were off-road. We were in the woods in somewhere in North Jersey, and it was me as the only forerunner and then like 7 or 8 Tacomas. And there was some questionable legality behind this place, which I didn't know until afterwards. And it was basically from the trailhead after we came out of the woods to the gas station to air up was like a rally. It was like driving a rally stage, you know, up and down and like bank corners and everything. But everybody was driving like it was, you know, like a Dakar or something. And it was fully aired down. I was at like 14 PSI and it was just terrifying. Just feeling like the truck rolling into the corner. And I'm like, oh God, if I flip over here, this is just not how I want to see this truck go.
Was this the Stormtrooper? Was this your Canadian import?
Yeah. Yeah. 14 PSI and no sway bars. It was not a fun time. And no ABS because we were in like 2 feet of snow and I got nominated as leader for some reason, even though I'd never been there before, and promptly got it stuck and just spun so much snow through that it kicked the ABS sensors out. And it was just all bad.
I can tell you right now, ABS is by far the worst thing that was ever developed for off-road. Like it is. It's horrible. And the fact that just yesterday, or not day before yesterday, I'm running over part of the Baja 1000 race course over. It's called the Valley T crossover, and I'm just in a stock vehicle, right? So I'm doing this thing, and I hit the brake, thinking I'm in like my race truck, but I'm not. I mean, not really, but I'm just used to just going a little deeper into stuff, and I hit the brake, and it's like ABS comes in. I'm like, okay, and then I'm like, please stop. Like the recovery, it doesn't want to turn off. It just and I'm like, okay. As I start to turn, I'm understeering. I'm like, okay, now I'm a little bit going, this is a problem because I need to turn at some point. And so I just realized, I'm like, you know, whenever we do testing, whenever I do any type of testing, even to this day, when it comes to tire development and all that, I pull ABS fuses all day long. Anything doing them because I can't set the car. I mean, if you think about it, if you come into the corner, you know, pretty fast, right? Let's say it's dirt. You want to set that vehicle. You want to get the suspension at full compression. And, you know, if you're an ABS, it doesn't set, it doesn't dive. It's just kind of all 4 tires or all 4 wheels are braking, right? Still the same case without ABS, but you definitely can get that front end to dive. And then as soon as that vehicle, the car starts to dive, you turn the wheel a little bit, that weight transfer comes in, then you can rotate, you know, left foot brake, drag it, get it to rotate around the corner. But with ABS, it's super hard.
No, so my smile is my background is off-road and stuff around the Midwest, and I've done some Jeep stuff in Florida and in Virginia, but like I want to go do that. I want to be at full throttle, left foot braking, to then obviously lifting to get the weight transfer. That's my goal.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, the way I drive, like in Baja, it goes from, I'll tell you exactly how, like Ivan Stewart showed me this trick when I was pre-running.
Name drop.
Yeah, speaking of name drops.
Seriously.
I learned this from him, and to this day, I still do it, and a lot of guys do it, but not everybody knows about it. I don't know why, but it's a crazy trick. And when I learned it, you gotta remember, I'm at the test track. I got a car at my disposal. I'm gonna go practice on the rough dirt road as much as I want. I start forward real quick. I run out the track. So I mean, I have this crazy, you know, I was able to do this and practice, do this over and over to the point where I didn't have to think about it. But one of the things that he taught me I thought was really interesting is you're going 60, 70 mile an hour down a dirt road and there's a G out, right? You guys know what that is, right? So there's just a washout or whatever you want to call it. Most people, they go, oh, there's a G out, and you hit the brakes as hard as you can, and you cringe because you're gonna smack into this G out because you weren't expecting it. Well, that's obviously the worst thing you can do, because you're gonna, as soon as you hit it, you're at full compression, your wheels go flying, then it's game over.
All bad.
You come into it right before, and this stuff happens, and you don't even think about it, but your left foot brake it, so you have throttle access. So you come hard into it, and it's right before that dip or G out is, you step on that brake, get the vehicle to full compression, and then as soon as that thing's at full compression, you go to wide open throttle right before the dip, right? That gives you full rebound, and then you have all the suspension to hit that bump. Boom. And it works. You know, it's like, that works from a production vehicle all the way to trophy truck. Well, they do, but you're also going twice as fast, and you're hitting bigger stuff. So the technique works across the board.
Interesting. I wonder if it works on the quads too. I'll have to try that. So you're basically just setting up to unload the front end so that it doesn't.
You want to be at full rebound. Because let's just say it's a curve. I mean, if you make it real simple, you hit it on the brakes, you're going to destroy your car. But if you hit it at full rebound, you've got all the suspension. At least it's going to not kill the car, but it'll probably damage.
You'll still have some damage, but like it's not going to be life-ending damage.
It's not going to feel good.
Suspension, you're going to use all the suspension travel before when you didn't have it. If you go to full compression, does that make sense?
Yes. It does. It does. I mean,
little trick, and then same thing goes with rotating the car in the corners. You get it down, and you just drag that brake, and you push the brake as hard just to get it to rotate. So it basically points for you. And as soon as you get it to where you want it, you're back on the throttle, and it's so fun to drive that way. A lot of these guys drive that way.
It sounds delightful.
Yeah. It sounds like having some mechanical sympathy in a situation when most people have none.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not going to get, I don't care what you drive, you're not going to get through a race unless you keep that thing together.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of racing, you've done quite a bit.
I've done well. Yeah, it's been fun. I didn't ever think this was going to be possible. I mean, from racing for Lexus for so many years and doing really well with them, and then jumping in a trophy spec, and then jumping in the trophy truck, just recently. So and then I may race. I might go back to Baja next week, because I might be getting in a trophy spec for the 1,000 this year. I wasn't even
nice.
Hey, I might need you. I'm like, I wasn't even planning that. So that could happen. And then I'm also kind of working on something for next year on the Peninsula run, but that could be like more of an OEM factory program. Still, I got a lot of things I'm kind of playing with.
So how many times have you run Baja?
Holy smokes. Well, I've finished 7 in a row, 7 Baja 1000s in a row. I've finished.
Wow. And finishing alone is a fucking feat.
I've won 3 of those in our class. I've gotten 3. How many seconds? I mean, we've gotten 16 podiums and 22 races.
God damn.
I finished a lot of races. 2 Baja 500s, 2 championships. In 2010, I won every race in the series except I got second at the 500. We missed it by 1, but I don't know.
Still,
a lot of races.
That's wild. So what vehicles were the ones you won with?
Mostly my Lexus. I mean, that was
the Lexus.
I raced the whole series, the whole season for 5 years straight, and we were just super dominant. I mean, a Ford Raptor could pull up next to us and laugh at it. You can laugh all you want, because you probably won't see it, but that's okay. I mean, it would destroy a Raptor. It was so good because the all-wheel drive. I had King Kongs in the rear, 4.5 triple bypass Kings. I had, 3.5 or 3.0 front coilover, and then I had 2.5 bypass up front.
Okay.
I had 8 inches of wheel travel on that Lexus.
Holy shit, really?
And those are stock A-arms. You can't change the A-arms. I got 37s. I squeezed 37s in there. I put about a 3-inch lift on it, body lift, to get the up travel. And I'm telling you right now, that thing was. I was in the trophy truck, and I'm like, I don't think I was going much slower in my Lexus in some sections. And I need to laugh about it, but you only have so much real estate.
Right. So, okay. So stock A-arms, why? Is that a class spec, or is that there's just no room?
You can't change that production. That's called stock full.
Okay.
You can't change the motor, the transmission. I mean, you got to have sell 5,000 units a year. I mean, there's all these rules. I had to use a stock steering gear. I mean, if you looked underneath it, it was bone stock. I had, roll cage. I had an oil coolers. I had, I had a cooler for the radiator.
Right, and skids, I'm sure.
The brakes were basically stock. I just had different on them. I mean, you'd be surprised. That thing was really closer to stock than you'd think.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Still
So
1 hour on the lake bed though.
Holy shit. That's wild. So okay, so then if that's
I think I found an inside picture.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. I'm trying to search fast over here. It's not working tonight.
I actually built that truck with the builder, and I had my hands in everything. I go, I want the dash to look back. I don't want it to look all chopped up. So many production trucks that half the dash is gone. I'm like, make it look nice and super clean.
It does.
And we debuted that at SEMA in 2011 or 11.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, look at the paddle shifter. Look, that paddle shifter was a one-off paddle shifter for that truck. You can see my brake bias just below that.
Yep.
And you can see my pedal. If you look at my brake pedal, it's like really far away from my throttle. Like,
yeah.
Because I'm just doing this the whole.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was super, super clean truck, and it was amazing.
Is that
does the push button still work for starting it?
Absolutely.
That's crazy. Stock shifter. I mean, the wood trim's still there. The glove box is still there.
Everything. Yeah. And TRD, the air cleaner, you see the air cleaner below to the right, that aluminum panel with the holes?
Mm-hmm.
That's the air cleaner. It's routed all the way to the front of the car because otherwise I'll get too much dust and I won't be able to get out of my way. So that's.
Oh, wow.
So wait, that's your intake for the engine?
Yep.
Huh. How does it breathe? Where does it get air from?
Well, there's no windshield.
Yeah, it's that's a huge Canon filter. It's like this big.
Oh my God.
Really big. It doesn't look like it, but then there's this massive 3 or 4 inch duct that goes right into the intake. So
wow,
one of my favorite.
That's fucking crazy.
One of my favorite Philip Seymour Hoffman lines ever, Ross. It's the suck zone. It's.
Yeah, I mean, because the silt, you go through the silt, and it literally, you can't see your hand in front of you. It's pitch black, and you're like, this is crazy. And you're breathing. You're like, how am I breathing? But it's that Parker pumper, system that works pretty good.
Yeah,
It's cool.
I was just.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just in Utah like 2 weeks ago, and I hit a patch of silt, and just all of a sudden there was a cloud everywhere. And I was in a stock Sequoia. I was like, I'll just wait, I guess. I don't know where we're going. Like,
you know what's cool is I used this prototype system in the Baja 1000 in the trophy truck, and for hydration, people always ask, how do you do all that? But it's this really cool system called, you've heard of Maglock. It's a new system that the Parker pumpers, they're magnetic into your helmets, and all the NASCAR guys, IndyCar. It's kind of a new system, but they also have a company called Fluid Logic, and literally a little light will flash in your steering wheel. When to drink, you tap that thing, and it squirts water in your mouth, and you can adjust the pressure on your phone, and it's regulated. So the cool thing about this is
that's wild.
I never had to go to the bathroom the whole time I was in the trophy truck because I only needed enough water to keep me hydrated, and it knows how much water to give you through all these different calculations and things.
Based on heat and based on heart rate.
I don't know all the science behind it, but I can tell you that a little tap, just to, if your mouth's dry or something like that, just a little touch, just a little spray in your mouth, and you're just like, oh, it's perfect. And you're not like fumbling for your Camelback lines. And it's so sweet.
Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know that exists at all.
What was it called? Hydro?
Well, it's all magnetic too. So let's say there's a fire in the truck, which is never good, but you just get out of the truck. You don't have to start pulling lines. It all pops off because it's
just on clips. That's smart. I mean, that's safety too. So
what's cool too is when you change drivers, it's super fast. You just plug in their water line, boom, and then it's. I'm telling you, this isn't all about endurance, and that saves you a ton of time.
That's pretty cool.
What was the system called again?
It's called Maglock, and it's called Fluid Logic. So
Fluid Logic. God.
Fluid Logic, and you can probably type it in.
I went with Hydro Logic, and I had messed that. The Hydrologic system is how we get rain and.
Guys, I mean, they're involved with all kinds of stuff.
How much water do you go through, or Gatorade, or whatever it is you're drinking over the course of a race?
It's so funny. People, I guess I've never actually measured it, but people always ask this question, and they have millions and millions of dollars. Like, oh my God, I'm going to win the race. I've got the best. And the first thing is, well, if you're not prepared yourself, if you're not training, if you're not eating right, I mean, I do a liquid diet. I was using Ham Nutrition was one of my sponsors, triathlon food type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not all dialed in like that, you're not going to get out of your own way. It's just that simple. So yeah, that's the system.
Oh, that's a crazy looking system.
Yeah, it works really well. It's all new. It's literally just coming out. Like I used the prototype when I was in the trophy truck.
Huh. Makes sense. Simplify. That is absolutely wild. So then I have to ask, what was your favorite truck to drive in Baja? Was it the Lexus or was it just full on trophy?
Oh yeah. I mean, dude, I can tell you right now, I was driving, when I got in that trophy truck, first of all, I had to qualify at SEMA, and that's a good story because, you know, I didn't get a lot of time in the race truck because the builder didn't have his stuff together and didn't have it. He's like, oh, we'll get you in. And I got a little bit of practice, but not enough. And it's 900 horsepower or whatever it is. And so I'm like, I think I'm ready, but
Good God.
So I get to qualifying at SEMA. Ricky Johnson, all those guys, Rob McCackman are like, hey, who only needs one lap of practice? And everybody raised their hand. I'm like, I need more than one lap of practice.
Yeah, one lap's not grazing the surface.
I don't even know what gear to be in hitting a 70-mile tabletop. So they're like, nope, sorry, everyone agrees, one lap of practice. So I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I did one lap of practice, figured it all out, and then raced it. And I'm like, and did my qualifying, which wasn't too bad on a wet track, but racing that truck, going through the whoops, there's a place called San Mateus right off the road near Highway 3. And I literally looked at my co-driver and I'm like, this is one of the dumbest things I've ever done. It's so it's so fast and so gnarly that I'm driving a long time and I felt comfortable, but I'm like, you don't even have time to think before you're upside down. It's just insane.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
What's the engine? Is it an LS motor or is it?
Oh no, it's a I don't know what. I mean, honestly, it's a custom.
Bespoke crate motor of some sort.
It's super expensive. It's just $1,000 motor.
Jesus.
The truck's at $500,000. It's ridiculous. It's not something you're going to go out and, hey, I'll take one of those at the lot there. But
right.
There's so many good action shots.
There's some in-car. I have some in-car stuff if you want to hear the motor. I mean, if you look at my YouTube stuff, I got some crazy in-car footage, but
we can't play YouTube, I don't think.
Oh, it doesn't? Okay.
Actually, it doesn't matter. We don't. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Anyway.
So we don't monetize. So
right. So
I just need to go back to this.
Yeah, it just to hear the sound,
Ooh, I don't know if it'll do the sound.
Oh, then it's not.
Oh yeah, you're headphoned in. This is the first trial on audio through the show.
So that hit right there when my truck was up like that, I don't even remember that. That's
coming down on one wheel on the left front.
I don't even remember that. So this is a technical section. This is the first 35 miles out of town. Mm-hmm. So it's really technical. I'm actually behind. I get in behind a truck not too long from now, and I'm in some dust. It looks like you're delayed. It looks really slow, like it's not buffering right. I look like I'm going like 1 mile an hour.
It's
hopefully because I'm recording on my machine, we should be okay.
Okay. Well,
except
anyway.
it just buffered.
It looks to me, my first impression is, oh, there's the sky and there's the ground and there's the sky and there's there is no flat section there.
I'll give you an example. There's a place called Mike's Sky Ranch Road, right?
Yes.
And I came down Mike's Sky Ranch and there's rollers in it, right? And my co-driver's like, he goes, you're at 136. I'm like, okay, that's pretty fast. Like that's moving down.
That's
there.
fast. Yeah.
Our helicopter, we had an A-Star helicopter chasing us with the executive with Exalta in it, and they couldn't keep up with us.
Holy shit.
That was pretty gnarly, honestly.
How many GoPros are in this truck? Because there's 2 on the dash, 1 on his helmet. I'm assuming we're viewpoint out of 1.
Well, the funny part about the GoPros, I don't know where the card is for that one. I don't know where the card is for that one. I couldn't. The guy in charge of it lost all the cards. So
oh no, bummer. That's okay. That in car is pretty awesome. That's wild.
So recently being out in southern Utah and on some tighter roads, like I was driving those at like maybe 35 miles an hour. This just looks insanely fast to me.
Yeah, at 100.
What's weird is you'll be going 70 to 80, 90 miles an hour in a corner, and you know you're going fast. It doesn't feel quite like that because the truck's so capable. The problem is you got to be able to slow the truck down. I mean, this thing will stand on its nose. It's got Brembos and everything else, but they're really, even a really good driver is gonna. It's really hard to just. You're like, okay, I'm going really fast over stuff, and how do you manage that? So everything kind of slows down. It's really kind of weird, but I felt pretty good overall. I mean, we were actually 12th on corrected time in about race mile 250. So I was doing pretty good. Got by, some guys, and we were doing all right until I had an alternator issue. We still finished mid-pack ahead of Robbie Gordon. I can honestly say I finished ahead of Robbie Gordon. I know it's kind of funny because nobody beats Robbie. Robbie's one of the fastest guys out there, but I don't know. I was ahead of him at the end. That's all I can
I always thought Robbie's like, I don't know if MO is the right phrase here or not, but like I always thought Robbie's thing was Robbie beats Robbie. Yeah. Nobody else beats Robbie, but Robbie can defeat Robbie.
Robbie is a badass. He's so freaking fast. Like he is. He's just. I don't know what's wrong with it. That he's got something. Seriously, there's not in his.
Just the fuse is like there's something disconnected.
He's obviously. People can say whatever they want, but he's a badass.
Yeah. Well, the video of him and the Grand Cherokee SRT.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it's a gumball rally or Robbie.
Scared the shit out of his friends.
Yeah, just nuts.
Yeah, I mean that trophy will scare most people. Like, it's the real deal.
You ever think about trying to get a seat in one of the stadium super trucks in that series?
Well, I tried. I asked Toyo in a marketing meeting one time, and I talked to the main person at Toyo who sponsors the SST.
Yeah, I would say like they run those.
Yeah, they sponsor it, and they wanted something from me. They wanted, hey, can you do this and this? I'm like, sure, I can do that. I go, let's do a trade. You guys put me in the truck, and I'll do the work for you. And they're like, yeah, that doesn't seem like a good trade.
That's a bummer. You never know. They may come back.
I would love to do that. Ari Langdyke Jr. does that a lot. He's a friend of mine. I've worked with him a few times on some different type of stunt type of jobs, and he's a good dude. And I just wanted to do that. I still want to do it because it's.
I want
to. It looks like the most fun.
It looks like if you could have a bunch of tanks together, but actually have them be entertaining, because I mean, like, I know there's only been like one or two accidents where I think like guys actually had sustained fairly large injuries.
Yeah, there's a couple. I think one in Australia, maybe.
Yeah, that was the one I'm thinking of too, I think. But like the rest of the time when they have an off, it's a fairly big off. Like it's catastrophic looking anyway.
No, those things they're a little scary. They're gnarly. You see those things. I've been to one of the races and they hit those metal jumps and it's those things don't land for a long time.
My favorite visual is from the Australia ones, I think in Adelaide, where they go off the ramps and then the fans in the stands are lower than the trucks going by.
You got to give Robbie some credit on the marketing side. He came up with a pretty good idea to do that, and it's pretty awesome to watch.
It is pretty freaking cool.
I'm gonna go yell at a kid real fast. So you can't.
So then you mentioned Toyo. So do you run Toyos on your personal vehicles?
I do. I mean, I do because they want me to do some long-term evaluation. So I just I'll put them on my own vehicles, and so. I raced for BFG forever. I've only ever had BFGs on my race trucks since day one, and that probably won't change, honestly. I think BFG makes the best race tire out there. Would I try something else? Yokohama's now coming up pretty good on the off-road side as well as Toyo's makes a great tire, but I just I don't know. I'm not sure where that'll go. But at the end of the day, Toyo, great company to work with. I work with their product planning guys and. There's that video that I sent you that we did out the track on the AT3 that I was involved with for a couple of years on the development side. I kind of helped them pick the targets, and I was basically the lead guy for the North American tire for that tire here when it came to evaluation and testing.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah.
That's a lot of truck to throw around on.
I forgot to mute before I turned it on, and so I absolutely just blew out my ears.
Nice.
Well, what's crazy, that video, I'm not sure where it is, but in that there's the temp media guys, the guys that shoot Ken Block and BJ Ball, when they were there shooting, they shot that. And I'm in this F-250, that big monster diesel truck, and I'm throwing things sideways on the it's called the Loop Road A-pad at 70, 80 miles an hour. And because you got to go that faster, the thing just won't move. And I was doing 90-degree drifts in it, like, and
good God,
90-degree lane changes, and
that thing.
Oh yeah, that just showed up.
But that wasn't even the most extreme. That was pretty good. But I had it completely. You could see the side of the truck, and then I'd bring it back, and I did that next to one of the film guys. This guy named Brian Moore, and he's like, "Get closer, get closer." And I'm like, I think I'm close enough. I think I sent that link because I'm 3 feet. Hit the back of that truck's 3 feet away from the camera guy, and he's not going to move. And
that's an 8,000-pound truck.
Oh, it was really it was really close, but I mean, I felt okay, but I wouldn't want to get any closer. That's for sure.
So I think Toyo's might be what I put on the Sequoia. So when you were like, "Oh, I did all this," I was like, how do you compare them to your BFGs? Like, because okay. I like we have guests who don't actually know us, and I feel like we have to go through the list of all the crap each time. But
all our own personal bullshit.
I have a 94 Land Cruiser with KO2s.
What KO2s? Okay.
Yeah, and they're stock size, like they're not anything special. And then I bought an 08 Sequoia because I needed something easier to haul 4 kids around, and I don't have 200 series money yet. And so right now it's got Goodyear SRAs. That sound right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's got Goodyear SRA. So I was leaning towards Toyos just because they were a little cheaper than the KO2s.
They're quite a lot cheaper than the KO2s.
But I also don't do a ton of crazy off-road driving. So
what about snow?
We get like 30, our average is like 38 inches a winter. So like 4 snows a year, maybe 6 to 8 inches max. And if it's over that, I'm not going out anyway.
So you got to remember the AT2, the previous tire before the AT3 came out, was not Free Peak Mountain Snowflake certified. The new AT3 is.
Okay.
And there's a lot of tires now that are. And that's a whole other story. But I tested about, 8 sets total recently in January, and before the AT3 was launched, a lot of the competitors, and I was surprised. The BFG didn't do as well as I thought, and in some areas it was really not good. And I'm a BFG fan, so I was like, that's too bad. And then some of the tires, the no name, it's not saying no name, but just the tier 2. I don't know what you want to call them, but like
tier 2 would work.
Yeah, tier 2 works.
You know what I mean? Because they're all getting so good that before it was like, oh, Michelin, BFG. It was just kind of like there was always the top and then everybody else.
Right.
I don't like that anymore. And there's a few tires out there that I was really impressed with, but the AT3, at the end of the day, it's so well rounded. Like when we were doing target settings, we wanted to hit everything as good as we could, but they didn't want to excel like super high here and give up a lot down here.
Right.
It's so well rounded that's why I like the tire, because it fits everybody's kind of expectations. And from a noise standpoint, ride comfort, it doesn't have a sharp edge to it. It's really round, impact shock, deflection. I like it because it's very linear. And so when we were testing ET2, it was a little more non-linear. And that gives you overshoot and all this stuff. And I'm like, let's make this more of a linear tire. Let's get better steering feel, more directness. So I threw all these targets with product planning, and we've gotten most of them. Surprisingly, the guys at Toyo, the engineers, the design engineers who developed this tire and the compounds that were used, they did a really good, they hit the targets. I was like, holy smokes, I couldn't believe it. And actually it's quite good.
And that's, for a reference point, between my dad and my brother, they probably have about 250,000 miles on the AT2s.
They'll love the AT3. If they like the AT2, they're going to absolutely love the 3.
Yeah, and that's on, my dad had him on a 2500 HD, and my brother had him on still has him on a Ram Rebel, and they both love them.
No, they trust me, that 3 is really good.
Interesting. Sounds like a Sequoia could benefit.
My plan. So I have a platinum Sequoia. It's just what was available to me. But like that came with a 20-inch tire. So I'm looking to go down to the 18-inch because the Sequoias and the Tundras all have the same. Was it 18x8 with a 150 bolt pattern and 60 offset? I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I can go grab any Tundra tire. But if I go to, or not tire, wheel. But if I go to the 18-inch wheel, then I can go with the slightly bigger tire, not to go crazy, but just to have a little more
sidewall is better sidewall.
Yes, I'm always team more sidewall.
Team more sidewall. I like that.
I've used the phrase #needs more sidewall a lot on Instagram. I think I'm the only person doing it, but
that's okay.
I enjoy it.
We still have Hooniverse things going on Instagram, so Stranger Things isn't even really a thing anymore. But so Joe, so what is your personal fleet at the moment?
Well, I don't have a car anymore because I don't have a job. No.
2020.
I'm sorry, that was very rude of me to laugh at.
Yep.
It's been fun, but no, it's funny. My son. I just tricked out Subaru Crosstrek for him. He's got it all dialed in. That thing's all air bead, and it just looks badass. I love that thing.
Crosstreks are actually kind of rad.
His is really cool. I put so much time. I wish I had a picture to show you guys because it's in Arizona. Nobody has this setup. They all have it in Colorado, but I put a little lift on it, put a really cool wheel on it, and actually run BFGs on that one.
Mm-hmm. They make the BFGs really small, like 28s and 29s are not common for the other tires.
It just looks awesome. I put rally lights up, the old school rally yellows up front.
Yep.
Oh man.
But I run a limited 4Runner in new one, and then I have third gen 4Runner
Okay.
And then I just got rid of it. I had 3 FJ Cruisers.
What's happening?
3 FJs? Wow.
Somebody gave me 3 FJ Cruisers for $1 each. I know that's a bad thing.
Oh, you got the dollar cars. Okay.
I've had them for my race team, and I've had them for so long, and I just was starting to just go, they're getting tired. So yeah, that doesn't look anything like my son's car, but it's cool.
Damn it! Let's take it a shot.
It's not bad. But no, I've got motorcycle. I got my most favorite vehicle I have. Do you want to hear what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Scooter.
Best car or not even a car. It's a 100% original, not restored, 1969 Mini Trail 50. It's the best thing ever.
Okay.
With a California black and yellow plate on it.
Oh God. Awesome. Yeah, keep that.
Yeah, I'd rather have that than anything else. So it's all good. Yeah, actually, that's actually my truck.
Is it really?
See?
That was my personal rig. Did you just pull that from my stuff?
No, I used that from something else and found something on an FJ Cruiser forum.
And you just happened upon that? That's wild.
Well,
that's crazy because you see the yellow ambers. I put the yellow ambers in. I actually have that A/B bumper powder coated to have a little bit of that textured look.
Yep.
Okay.
And I had it all matched because it matched the roof rack and the rear bumper. I mean, no, not the rear
bumper. Wow.
I don't know. And I put the amber on the mirrors. You see that?
Yeah, I like that a lot.
That's such a clean setup. Was that okay? So what suspension? So I mean, listening audience totally missing out on this, but
Sorry,
Black FJ, the good 6-spoke wheels, KM1s.
Let me show you something. So that TRD wheel, that was a pretty new wheel at the time, but you see, this is a trick question for you guys. I want to see if you guys pick up on this. I did something to the front end of that vehicle that does not come like that. What did I do?
Oh, the side markers are blacked out.
That's right. And I use an SCM satin black, trim black. And I'm telling you, it completely changed the look of that front end.
It does. It makes it so much narrower.
Yeah, and the blinkers are in the bumper. See that? So
Oh yeah, so you moved them. Huh. Good call. It looks great. So what was the suspension? And also, was it a stick or the auto?
Oh, that was an auto. I think I got this. I don't know why I got that auto. I probably would have rather gotten the stick. I think my wife's like, I don't want to get something else, but it doesn't. But that's got the stock TRD suspension, the Bilstein, I think 46.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't put anything else. Oh no.
Maybe the bumper makes it look taller.
I might have had OMEs on it.
Okay. Like a 2 or 3 inch OMA kit.
I've had so many FJs, I don't even know which one's which anymore. So
that's amazing.
That's a great problem to have, I guess.
Yeah, seriously.
I don't know what I had on it. Sorry, guys.
Still, killer
celebration of riches.
Yeah. I dig it.
So wait, did the Lexus have a white Cancer livery too?
Yeah, it was my sponsor. I had cancer. That's why I left Toyota. Do you know that?
Oh, no, I did not.
Oh, we didn't.
That's a whole nother. Yeah, no, actually, I had obviously everything was great at Toyota. Nothing against Toyota, but I got diagnosed with lymphoma.
Shit.
I had 2 or 3 surgeries. I can't remember 2, 3. Anyway, and then I had chemo and radiation. I had all of it.
Oh, you had the full slew of it.
Got through all that, and when I got back to Toyota, everybody was great, but it just my life. I just looked at life differently. I was like, do I really want to keep doing this? And I love my job, but you know what I wanted to do? I wanted to race. I wanted to do stunt work. And my wife's like, do what you want to do, because now's the time. Just so you know, you've been kind of thrown a curveball. And my wife, she owned our current company, which does the corporate events. I'm like, so she's like, just bring in your pro drivers. We'll run ride and drives. Well, it'll be a full turnkey service. I'm like, okay. And then I was able to get into the stunt side, do stunt work. Every once in a while, I got to do that. And then the racing just came. But this is a crazy story. I'm getting my chemo. This is a true story. In the chair getting my chemo, right? I go, hey, can I talk to your marketing guy? They're like, what do you mean? I just got a question for him. Marketing comes, I go, hey, when I'm done with this chemo, you want to sponsor me to race Baja? And they're like, we don't even know what Baja is. This is in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? I'm like, well, what if I send you a proposal? Would you look at it? He's like, I'll look at it. So I didn't forget, obviously. I get done with my stuff. And this was probably 6 months later, and they liked the idea, and they gave me money. And then I go, well, now I need a car. I need something to race. I called Toyota. They're like, we have no interest at all racing off-road. I'm like, really? I'm like, okay. And then I call Lexus, and they laughed at me. They're like, you want to race a Lexus in the Baja 1000? I'm like, yeah. They're like, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. And I just kept calling, and finally they gave me this an LX570. They were going to it was a dollar vehicle, whatever it was. I'm like, take it and leave us alone. And so,
goddamn,
I built that up, and I had some dollars from the Kansas City America, and our very first race, the Baja 500 in 2009, didn't pre-run, and we won.
Holy shit!
First time Lexus ever raced a professional, sanctioned off-road race in the world, and that made history for the brand. And then the next race was the Baja 1000. I got second. I almost won that.
Holy shit!
We won every single race except for one. Yeah,
that's amazing. That's so cool. I mean, happy to hear you're doing okay. Lymphoma is a killer. It's awful, but
it is what it is. I got through it, and
yeah,
I'm fine now. But they have the good medicine, so it's all good. That was a fun day, by the way.
I was just gonna say I was clicking through the stuff that you sent, and I got to
GSF. Okay,
well, I got to the LC500 picture, and I went, hold on, I got to find more of this, and now it's buffering on us.
Yeah, so you alluded to your current little project, which is a stunt team. I'm not even sure, PR company doing for stunt drivers.
I'm sorry, what was that?
You said your current project is basically a team of stunt drivers doing PR.
No, we're just. I hire pro drivers to do like ride and drive events, press launch.
Okay.
We'll drive cars on stage, but they go through my company, and I hire. Let's say we're doing an off-road event. I'm going to bring in the right off-road guys. If I'm doing a racetrack, I'm going to bring in the track guys. I bring in the right people for the right job. But that day, that GSF, that was a Lexus event, right? It was called Lexus Through the Lens. And we were asked to kind of come up with this concept, and we put together like the stunt people, the stunt drivers, and the media. And if you were a media, you could jump in the car with me and some of my other guys, and they had a drone up top, and you could get in a camera car to see how a commercial's done. And it was just a cool experience.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It was a really cool experience, and I'm sliding right through there. That's like my most favorite shot of all time. And there's a Russian arm following us in the camera car.
Yeah, the Mercedes arm. Yeah. What track is that? Where is that?
That's at Palm Beach.
Okay.
There it is. The camera car was there for a hot second.
Good engine in those cars, the F cars.
That was a great day. That was so much fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Out there, and all those guys were all out there.
That's the LC500 is on my list of stuff I still want to drive.
So just to give you an idea, I've driven the LFA at the track.
Oh.
That's number one. That was during development. I was the off-road guy, but I got to spend a little bit of time in it every once in a blue moon, but not very often. But I got to drive that quite a bit after I left Toyota, believe it or not. And then my most favorite car, so LFA number one, LC500 is number two. It is
okay.
Number three is a new Supra. I'm going to give that to the Supra.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, I would. And then I go GSF, RCF.
Okay.
That's just how it stacks up.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. So the V8, the NA V8 in the F cars is amazing, but the V10 in the LFA is like the greatest sounding engine ever.
Do you want to hear a funny story about
yes.
that? So we're at our desk. We're at our desk at the test track. Blah blah blah. Japanese, they're in the garage. You can hear stuff in the garage faintly, sort of. I mean, it wasn't like you're pretty isolated in your desk. And they had these curtains around the LFA prototype, and all of a sudden they fire this thing up, and it sounds like a wild caged animal. I'm like, what is back there? It was so loud, and the flywheel, it was like, it sounded like an Indy car. I was like, that thing is insane. Like I was hooked when I heard that thing.
So everybody like kind of sit up and look around, right? Like,
you can't believe the sound. And then when you drive it on the track, you're just like, oh my God. Like
wasn't the LFA, isn't it that the car that it was one of the first ones with the digital tachometer because they didn't have an analog tach that would rev fast enough for it?
Mm-hmm. I think so, yeah.
Man, that's pretty cool.
I've only ever seen one, and the only time I've been to the Detroit Auto Show, there was one in the Lexus booth. But
the redeeming part of Detroit.
I drove one with Scott Pruitt. We were doing hot laps at
Name drop.
Country Club in Chicago, and I was running on the track, and I come into this corner. I just remember this, and I come in. I go to full lock one way. I was like, ooh, like I think one way, and then I don't remember. I was like, oh, this is bad. Like I knew right away. I'm like, I'm in too hot. I was coming in a little hot, and I saved it, but I was like, I'm not going to tell anybody about that.
Ignore the tires.
So I found the limit on that LFA.
Does the LC share any of like the dynamic properties, or is it just purely GT car?
I really don't know. I mean, that's
too far apart.
Over my head, and the fact that I just never was exposed to that at that level.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell you.
I just love the way the LC500 looks, and
it's beautiful. You know what's cool about the LC500? And here's another funny little story about that. As I was coming into to do those drifts, that root beer brown drift,
yeah,
slow motion stuff. As I'm coming in, it was about an 80-mile-an-hour drift. It doesn't look like it's slow motion, but the tires are so wide. They're like 315. I don't even know. They're really wide.
315s, holy shit.
Yeah. So I'm coming in, and you'd have to carry a lot of speed to get the vehicle to rotate. And the camera car's like, he's like, dude, I'm having to haul ass to just keep up with you. And I go, well, I got to get this thing to rotate. And the best part is the guy sitting next to me was a Formula Drift driver, right? He was an FD driver. And I come in, I flip the car, and I literally, it was so balanced, I could drift that car at 80 mile an hour with 2 fingers on the steering wheel.
Oh, man.
What?
But no, I'm not kidding. But here's this was a stickler at the end. As I came around, my other stunt guy that was there, he was waiting. He was out of the camera view. So he's just sitting there parked as I'm coming out of that exit. And he's looking at me. He's like opposite direction, just sitting there. I'm coming at him, and I'm just at a full 90-degree lock drift, and I'm sliding right towards him. And I kind of did this on purpose. At the very last minute, I'm like, flick it back this way, and I go right by him, and I literally look at him as I go that direction. He's like, dude, what is wrong with you? I'm like, this is awesome. I like this car.
I would say I felt completely in control. That's why I did that.
Actually, but here's the deal. If you would have lifted at all, you're in the wall. Like you had to just stay in it, and you just feather the throttle, keep a little input, and it was fun.
Yeah, it's wild that car has gotten the reviews it has in terms of how it drives, and not just what most people think of it when they see it and stop there.
As in the best priced Aston Martin?
Yes, as in that.
If you shift that thing with the paddles, it hits hard. And
Does it?
Sounds fucking good too.
In a good way though. It's like, I mean, you
Yeah.
like the way it hits. It's cool.
Oh man.
Like the early like Ferrari F1 trans cars or the early paddle like V10 Lambos like forces you back.
I think the Lambo hit the heart. I think we blew a tranny in the Lambo at the track.
Good God.
I think Lambos purposely hit harder than anything. Like that's part of
like
the experience.
It's got to be a $10,000 gearbox.
Pile of junk. I mean, I jumped in the F430, the LFA, the Lamb, the Gallardo. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Gallardo.
Yeah.
I jumped in like 3 or 4 cars, and I'm like evaluating them at the track, and I'm like, I jump in the Lamborghini. I'm like, what a pile of crap! Like this thing, and it feels like, and it's not. But when you get out of the other ones, you just jumped in into the worst car you could drive. That's the difference. That's how much different. It's hard to put that in perspective, but they were that big of a difference.
Right. Crazy. That's a territory of cars I am largely unfamiliar with. Take off like all of the zeros from the price, and that's
my most favorite car I drove. Oh, and the GT2 Porsche. That's what I drove too.
The current GT2 or the?
It was 2010, right?
Okay, so 997.
Whatever it was the gnarliest car. I'm in love. Like I liked it better than the LFA. It was different because it had so much lower end torque versus the high end on the LFA. They were so different.
Right.
I love that.
So the 997 GT2 was basically, that was just like a lightweight turbo, right? It was.
I don't remember.
I've only really started paying attention to Porsche within the last like 4 years. So
all I know is it was one of the coolest cars. It was $225,000. That's all I know.
Pocket change.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, here, go ahead and take it on the track." I'm like, "Sweet." And they only let so many. You had to have an S1 license to drive that car, so only a few people got. Not many people got to drive it.
I had lunch with a friend recently, and he showed up in a $337,000 car, and I was like, "What's my mortgage?"
That's how
much. It's not that much.
I'm looking at houses that cost that much.
Yeah, that's because you live on the East Coast.
Well, yeah, it's a tiny little house.
Exactly. We have jobs here, and you can get a much bigger house. Anyway.
Don't remind me.
So,
don't remind me.
I'm going to go completely off topic here, Joe. Are you a firefighter, or do you only train the firefighters?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's like a good question.
It could be both. Did everyone freeze?
Fireman for
wow.
10 years. At the test track, and this was at Toyota, right? This is for Toyota. We worked so far away, we had to have our own fire department on the track. So we all got trained as firefighters. And
okay.
Whoever wanted to, and I did because I thought it was cool. We do all the cool training. I mean, everything burns, and I mean, you name it. So it got us out of work. We're like, hey, I got to train. I don't have to work. I'm going to train. So it was cool. But I just thought it was fun anyway. And actually, one of the guys I worked with went and left, became a paramedic. He's like, I like this so much, I'm just going to do this for real. And what was the question again? Oh, that training. So what happened is that had nothing to do with this type of training. That was strictly just in case something happened at the track that we needed to be.
Because nobody was there to actually come on site.
We'd get on the fire truck, we'd go to the thing. But this came kind of out of nowhere, and a firefighter asked me if I could put together an off-road training program for their department. And I said, sure. And so I brought in one of my guys who's a really good instructor, and I put this whole presentation, PowerPoint, him and I worked together on it to get it as good as we could. So what we found is we do 20 people, and it's over 3 days. First day, all 20 people are involved. We do the classroom. We go inside the garage. We talk about working load limits, straps, winches. We go through all this crazy stuff. We do spotting techniques. That's what you were seeing at the end of that video. Mm-hmm. And then we do the field test. That's what you see. That's field test the last day. And we do those 10 people per day because we like to keep it smaller.
Yeah, personal.
It's crazy because these guys, interesting. These guys come in, these are battalion chiefs or engineers, and and the first question I have for them, like, you guys raise your hand if you've ever off-roaded before. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, a badass. Have you seen my Jeep? Take a look at it. I know it's crazy. There's just, they all know something about off-road, which is great. I mean, I think it's cool. But as soon as we start getting into in much deeper and really starting to break things down, they were like, yeah, I don't think I know as much as I thought I did. And it was just simply they didn't realize how much information that we were going to share. So we get cars stuck on purpose. These guys are driving the brush trucks in the sand. I mean, we're doing everything we can to show them how to recover vehicles, how to drive them, and how to just all the stuff. There's a lot. It's actually, I still do it. If any departments out there need it, but we have a really cool program, and I give them a written test, and it's crazy. It's all,
oh, wow.
It's all legit.
So what's the intended purpose? Is it for like actual brush fires, or is it for search and rescue, or is it just, it covers everything that you could need to do this in?
Well, it's like here in Arizona. I mean, this would be California. It could be anywhere, Colorado. Not really so much any downtown types of places, because that doesn't make sense. But if, most of these departments, like where I live, have brush trucks. So if there's a brush fire, they load up and they go over there. But also if there's a UTV accident, they can't get in the big trucks. So, they take these a little bit smaller trucks. I forget what type it is now, but and they just go out there. And then what the problem is, they go out there and then they get stuck themselves because they don't know what gear to be in. They don't know how to drive. They don't know what approach pressure angles are. They don't know. They just don't know. And then
there's two problems.
And so we teach them all that.
Okay. That's wild. I mean, fuck, that's awesome. It's, when you go off-roading, you try not to ever think about what could go wrong or, the bad outcomes of something, but it happens. I mean, I've been on the trail with people who have, broken arms, broken legs, that kind of stuff, or rolled a vehicle, and certainly need to have rescue that can get there.
You want to hear a really cool technique? This is a really cool technique, and I learned this from working with those guys. I buried this brush truck that you just saw in that picture, down in the sand, right? We're in deep sand wash. And I introduced them to Max Tracks, things like that. And I said, we talked about using water. They have water in the truck. They need, super heavy trucks. They may have to unload some of that water to get out because they're so heavy.
Right.
But what works really well is they take, one of the guys grabbed the hose and he watered the sand. And guess what? He drove right out. Crazy. You don't even think of something that easy.
Yeah. Never would have crossed my, that's.
Is that because it allowed it, like clumped it enough to allow the wheels or the tires to grab enough to actually pull itself out?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Dude, that's awesome. I got to go back to that. I closed it. I've ruined everything. I closed all my windows and you guys both froze.
Chris, you have also very much frozen, and you're back.
Yeah, I guess it's raining here today, so it's going to be weird. I don't know.
I won't tell you what it's like here in Arizona.
I dipped a toe in Arizona 2 weeks ago because I drove down to the north rim of the Grand Canyon. But I get it.
I mean, Baja was amazing yesterday, and I was there all week, and then I come home and it's shorts, t-shirts.
Oh man, we might get snow here on Friday night. So
it snowed here Monday.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's only like my birthday's next week, but it's only snowed like 5 times before my birthday living here, and we can add another one to it. And I immediately sent it to my brother-in-law. I was like, "You sure about this?" Because they were talking about coming here, and I was like, "Don't."
Have fun.
So, Joe, we have this vague question that we've asked a lot of people, and most episodes we kind of ignore it because it kind of gets covered like while we're talking. Your expert off-road hacks, tips. I mean, unloading the front end before you hit a bump is a pretty good one.
It's not really a hacker. It's a tip. It's not, I mean, the hack's going to be pull your ABS fuse. That's a total hack. And you know what? And it's totally like, oh, that's a whole liability legal thing. You know what? I don't care. It works. Like, I'm sorry. But if you have ABS in the dirt, first of all, if you're going to hurt yourself. Like, it just doesn't work. It's not designed for that. It doesn't work.
Yeah, designed for pavement.
It doesn't work. And I don't know, maybe it's the style of the way, rally guys drive and all that. I mean, there's not one good rally driver out there that's going to run ABS. And if they are, I want to meet because I don't know how to do it.
That guy's
you definitely
even more,
do lose some control.
Yeah, that the ABS equipped rally driver is even more of an alien than rally drivers already are.
Well, I think take it a step further in the fact that I think the tuning of ABS, and this is where I think this is more important for like the OEM. You just need to make sure the tuning is, if it's better in the fact that you get on the brake, and as soon as you get off the brake, it shouldn't still be on, but it is. It's crazy, and it doesn't recover quick enough. And if it was more of an on and off, or an off switch that you can actually turn off, like
right.
You make a decision, it would. I honestly think people have probably had some big crashes and they couldn't figure out what it was, but I'm pretty sure that was the reason.
The ABS still activated.
Don't doubt that.
I mean, you can't turn this. You can't turn. It's going straight off of whatever you're going off of.
Right. I do think there's a huge liability aspect behind that the OEMs will never ever support, a switch or anything. But I do also, on the opposite end, think the people who know enough and are equipped enough and, skilled enough to actually pull a fuse or set up a bypass with a switch are probably going to do it.
Yeah. Trust me, I should write a book. I have so many bypasses, so many toggles. I have like this crazy, I should write a book on every single car I drive. I pull ABS fuses, and I just, not only when I need to, and I wouldn't do it like just drive around, but if I'm doing some testing or something, I'm always like, oh, this one's here. Oh, they're making this one hard. These guys thought this one through. Like, it's so funny because they don't want you to do it.
Yeah. Right. Even in a lot of cars, like, I don't know, I haven't driven the Supra, but I know in the Subarus and the Miatas, if you push the traction control button, traction control isn't totally off. Like, there's a 10 count hold and then you get everything.
Well, I used to do the double lane change and rollover stuff at Toyota. So I know for a fact
that they're
off. And they're not. They say they are, but they're not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Full control is never.
It makes me think of how easy it is to find my ABS fuse on the 94 Land Cruiser, but like, I'm not even sure where the other fuse box is in the Sequoia. Like, I'm going to have to go dig for that one.
It's easy. And then, you've got you can pull a wheel speed sensor. You'll lose speed, but you'll get your ABS.
Two in the same.
He says out of the side of his mouth.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I don't know if I can get in trouble. Can I? I don't think so.
I don't
probably
think
not.
So. Because it was always at your own risk. Like, you didn't say, hey, do this, you'll be completely safe. No, do this. Bad things still might happen.
I'm not telling you to do it. I'm telling
you
to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is very much don't do what I do what I say. Or wait. No,
right.
Can I tell you this one story about
of course.
that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a true story. I'm sure Toyota will love this one, but so we're testing in Borrego Springs. We're testing at Tacoma. I think it was 98 Tacoma. We're going way back. Chief engineers with us, and we take a section, and we tell one of our guys, hey, go up there, 2 miles or a mile up with the radio, make sure there's nobody coming. We want to make sure it's a closed course. We don't want to hurt anybody. And we're in a pre-production vehicle, and we're testing VSC. This is when VSC started coming out. So I don't know exactly what year that was, and I'm in the truck, and I turn the system on, and I'm like, and I'm like, I can't get out of my own way, and like, whatever. And I turn the system off. We had like a manual switch because we were doing back-to-back stuff. Chief engineer's with me, and I'm just whipping this truck sideways at super fast and doing my thing. So we're all done testing, and I'm the only one that was driving. And the chief engineer's like, hey, I'm going to go pick up the guy at the other end. I'm like, oh, it's your truck. Like, I don't know. It's all good. And he goes, and all we hear is on the radio, oh, crash, rollover. I'm like,
what?
I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. So he rolled the truck. Okay.
Holy shit.
And we get up there, and he's fine. Truck's not, but he's fine. And so what happened was he went back on the same test area. He was doing what I was doing. He replicated what I was doing. I'm like, don't do what I'm doing, please. Like, that's what you're doing, and you're not. I mean, I'm just saying. And so he tried to do what I was doing, and he ended up rolling the truck. So
Good God.
It was super swept under the rug for sure. Nobody knew about it. But, you know, at the end of the day, and this just goes like, listen, let the people that do the job do the job. I mean, that's just, you know what, you don't need to impress me. Just let me do it. What I'm trying to do, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So it's that was an interesting couple days.
That's fucking crazy. Statute of limitations is out on that one.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's
like 22 years ago. Dude, that was a great story. I think we should probably end on that one. It was that good.
That was a good story.
Joe, what do you want to plug? Obviously you have a YouTube channel.
Well, I just started it. You know, I've had a lot of time on my hands this last these last 2-3 months with COVID. So I learned Premiere Pro. I'm doing all the editing myself. I'm like a one-man band now, which is awesome. But I have all my stuff I've had all my stuff on YouTube for a long time, but now I'm starting to actively do reviews and some different types of stuff. I just did that 2020 TRD Pro 4Runner. Just got done driving. I'm going to do a review on that. You can see that I have the tire review in there. I've got some running footage from racing. I've got that Toyota iRoad over there. I mean, I just got random stuff. It'd be cool if I could get some people to check that out. I've got my Instagram. Everything's just my name, Joe Bacal. So if anybody wants to check out what I got going on, then that'd be cool.
Sweet.
Very cool. Joe, thank you.
I really appreciate you guys, having me on. It's always fun to meet some new people in the industry, and then also just, I like to, tell some fun stories, so it's fun.
Well, we like talking to the guys that have a lot more stories than us, because we don't always have all the stories right now. Like, we're still working on those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can tell you stories because I'm not going to get in trouble anymore. When I worked for the companies, I get in trouble now. I can say
after 6 months of lockdown, you're like, we might as well tell some of these.
Right. Time to write that book.
How bad can it be now, right?
Yep. Well, Joe, thank you. This was fun.